Hey there! Today I'm gonna show you some amazing positions to illustrate the importance of passed pawns, and I'm gonna teach you a few rules of thumb along the way so that you can evaluate positions with passed pawns a lot more easily. So let's start with the first position. Here it is white to play, and we see that this rook on c4 is being attacked. And here white found a brilliant move. White is a very strong player, but we could even find this move by process of elimination. Because here if white moves the rook, for example, to c2, then black will simply take this pawn on e5, and even though white might try to attack the rook and the pawn, black can take another pawn on e5. So here white played the very nice rook takes e5, giving a full exchange and seemingly improving black's pawn structure, because after d takes e5, black's pawns on the b file are not going to be isolated anymore. And here actually black took with the pawn. If black takes with the rook, then after we trade rooks, no matter how nice black's pawns look, here white has this very strong move d6. And here's an important note about passed pawns. As a general rule, the more pieces we trade, the stronger the passed pawns become, particularly when they have mobility. So here this pawn on d6 cannot be blocked on d7, for example, so it can advance easily, and it is going to cost black material. For example, after rook takes e5, d7, black is in no time to take the bishop because white will simply promote, and after rook to d5, white promotes, and white ends up being a piece up for 2 pawns. In this case, black doesn't have compensation because the king is going to get active very soon, and even though black has a passed pawn on the c file, if black pushes the pawn, then after bishop to a5, white is easily stopping this pawn. So black tried instead taking with the d pawn, but after d6, this pawn on the d file is also very strong. White is a full exchange down, but this pawn is ready to advance, go to d7 and fork these 2 rooks. Here black actually tried an interesting idea by going rook to f8, and white didn't rush by going d7. If white goes d7, black's idea is to give back the material, and if white takes on d8 after rook takes d8, now black is ready to take on d7 or bring the king. If white goes rook to d1, just bring the king, so this position would be balanced. But since white is totally dominating this position, white played the very nice king to f3. White doesn't have to rush with d7, and the idea is to activate the king and then play d7 or even attack this pawn on c5. So black doesn't have any way to improve his position, so amazingly the position is very bad for black. Black tried the move f6, but white simply took the pawn, and after king to f7, the idea is nice. Black wants to go king to e6, trying to stop the pawns, but after d7, rook c to d8, now white went for this rook ending because after rook takes e5, rook takes d7, and rook takes b5, black has a couple of extra pawns and won the game in just a few moves. So let's move on to another position where former world champion Magnus Carlsen is playing as black. So here white has 2 pawns for a bishop, but white has these 2 very nice pawns on the 5th rank that are connected, so they can potentially defend each other. So connected passed pawns, they are often very strong. There's another rule of thumb that if they manage to get to the 6th rank, they are very often even stronger than a full rook. So even though white is materially down here, since bishop is normally worth 3 pawns, white has a much better position. For example, if black tries to get rid of this knight on e5, which is very annoying, white can simply start pushing the passed pawns. So it is very important that passed pawns have mobility, as they have in this case. And if black here tries a move like queen to c8, preventing knight to c6 ideas, white can keep on pushing the pawn, and after a move like queen to c7, rook to a8, white is already winning material with this very strong passed pawn on b7. That's why Magnus here tried a very interesting idea, which is to give back the material by going knight takes c5, and the idea is that if white takes on c5 after bishop takes e5, now white only has 1 passed pawn, and black's idea is to block it on b6. White still has a good position here, but it is not as clear as what happened in the game. So here white played the move b6. The idea of taking on c5 is still in the air, but before doing that, white pushes the passed pawn on b5 and attacks the queen. And after queen to b7, another intermediate move, queen to b5, attacking the rook, and also attacking the knight on c5. And here Carlsen tried a very interesting idea. In this seemingly desperate position, Carlsen went rook to a8, and the idea is that after rook to c8, white has many options, like rook to a7, but even taking on c5, since now the pawn on b6 is quite advanced. For example, after rook takes c7, white can go queen to d7, attacking the queen and the pawn f7, and after the trade of queens, knight takes, white has many ideas like going b7 and b8, or even rook to a8, attacking the bishop. Or if black takes with the bishop, then after rook to c1, this pin on the c file is actually very annoying. So black is in no time to take on b6, because after queen takes and bishop takes, white takes the rook on c8. That's why Magnus tried rook to a8, and after rook takes and queen takes, remember this rule of thumb that the more pieces you trade, normally the better for the passed pawns, and after pawn takes, even though black will get the piece back after the move queen to a1, giving a check, so the defensive idea by black was interesting, but unfortunately not enough, because after king to h2, even though black gets the piece with a check, after g3, these two passed pawns are going to be worth a lot more than a bishop. They are already quite advanced. Here black tried d4, this doesn't threaten anything. White simply pushed the passed pawn, ready to promote. And after queen to f5, white has to be a bit careful because black plans to give a few checks after taking on f2. And here the simplest is just to go queen to b2, guarding the f2 square. And after pawn takes is again a very simple continuation. Black doesn't have any checks in this position. And after queen takes e5, white simply promoted to a queen and won in just a few moves. And before I move on to the next position, I have an important announcement for you. I recently launched my Chess Endings complete training course. This course will teach you all you need to master chess endings. In this course, I definitely focused a lot on passed pawns, but I'll also teach you how to master very important endings like rook and pawn endings, while still going through all the important ideas that you need to know how to play endings correctly and stop giving points for free to your opponent. So for the next few hours only, you can get a massive discount on my course, so feel free to check the link in the description if you want to know more about this offer. So let's move on to the last position, which is a brilliant example about the importance of passed pawns and their mobility. Here we have former world champion, a legendary player, particularly a very strong ending player, Anatoly Karpov. White is a pawn up, but black is ready to get counterplay by taking this pawn h5 and then pushing this passed h-pawn. So here the very natural way to go would be to go king to b5, planning to capture this pawn a5 and then pushing the pawns on the queen side. But here black is in time to get counterplay after taking the pawn h5 and after knight takes. Even though white is a pawn up, black has this bishop that can be active on both sides of the board. This is an advantage that the bishop has over the knight in endings. I speak a lot about this in my course. So black here has a lot of counterplay, and in fact white even has to be a bit careful not to lose this position. Because after king to g4, black is pushing this passed pawn on the h-file and white's pieces are far away from this pawn. So here one way to continue would be to go knight to c4 and after h5 both sides push their pawns, but here black can take on a5 and after king takes and h4. This position is a draw with correct play, but white can go wrong here. White has to try to stop this pawn after a move like knight to e3 and after king to f3 attacking the knight. Just to show you how white can go wrong here, after something like knight to f5 attacking the pawn, black simply goes h3 and this pawn cannot be stopped. But here white is in time to promote the pawn after going b4 and after king takes, both sides will simply promote to a queen and we will get a draw. Even here after something like queen to a1 giving a check, white has to be careful not to play something like king to b5 or king to b4, because after queen to b1 black is picking up the queen. But after king to b6 we would simply get a draw. But instead of going king to b5 and knight takes a5, Karpov played this very nice move, knight takes b5. So here it's all about speed, about moving the passed pawns quickly. So white doesn't want to go king to b5, which would block the b pawn, and after bishop takes and b4, white gains time attacking the bishop, and after bishop to d8, a5, black took on h5. Here white played the interesting king to b5, controlling the b6 square and being ready to push a6, and after bishop to g5, a6, bishop to e3, stopping the pawn, king to c6. In this position black resigned because we can see that white's pawns are actually a lot more advanced. The game could have continued king to g4, but after b5, h5, b6, white is going to promote one or two pawns. For example, after bishop takes, king takes, h4, white promotes, and this is a very trivial win because white could even block the pawn first and then bring the king to attack the pawn. So I hope that you can use your passed pawns efficiently in your games. Remember that the closer we get to the ending or the less pieces that we have on the board, the stronger they become. They can be easily worth a minor piece or even more. So thanks a lot for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.